And we got some breaking news out of the NBA where ESPN is reporting that Thunder star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be named MVP. He beat out two former MVPs to take home the award in Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. SGA led the league in scoring this season, averaging just over 32.5 points a game. He is the third player in Thunder franchise history to win the MVP award, joining KD in 2014 and Russ Westbrook in 2017. SGA will be looking to become the first player to win MVP and a title in the same season since some guy named Steph Curry did it back in 2015. And our Ashley Nicole Moss is back with us here on set. You know, we were just talking earlier about the timing of this, why we were waiting so long, and now we're getting the announcement a little bit earlier than expected today. But it is SGA ultimately reports out there that he is going to be named MVP, and not shocking, Ash. We've kind of come to the conclusion in the weeks we've been waiting compared to other seasons that it was going to be SGA's award.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we were having this conversation, it was just, what do you value more? And is it individual stats, or is it individual stats mixed with the success of the team? And I think ultimately the team success of the Oklahoma City Thunder put SGA above Nikola Jokic in this conversation. He was my way too early prediction in the preseason. He's been my pick the entirety of the NBA season. When you look at what he's done, he led the Thunder to an NBA best 68 wins. He led the league in scoring, scored 20-plus points in 72 straight games, led the NBA in 20-point games, 30-point games, 40-point games, and 50-point games. So, yes, Jokic had his best statistical year. He was top 3 in scoring, rebounds, assists, and steals. But naming off all of the accomplishments of SGA this particular season, mixed with the fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder were not only #1 in the West, but #1 in the NBA as a whole, for me, this was a no-brainer.
All right, and this was a guy who was in the MVP conversation a season ago, right? And his team had a lot of success in the regular season. They ultimately fall up short in the playoffs, but now he's been able to not only have this team and lead them to a phenomenal regular season, the best team arguably in the entire association, but now they're well on their way to potentially winning the finals as well. How do you kind of contextualize and how does that speak to who he is as a player, to not only, you know, do it, come up short, and then kind of repeat it and then take it to the next level just one season later?
It speaks to his maturity, and honestly, I know that's kind of a weird phrase to use when you talk about the Thunder because they are such a young team.
Yeah, the average age is what, like 24 or something?
Yes,
it's crazy.
Super young. And then you see them in the post game, and they all do the post game conference together, and they throw the towels on the reporter, and you know, as Haley refers to them, the Aura Boys, and it's just they're such a young demo that sometimes you expect them to be immature in the way that they approach the game. You almost wouldn't blame them if they were immature in the way they approach the game. But one thing I'm very impressed about is how they keep the main thing the main thing. And I want to go back to last night's game. One thing I was also very impressed by was there was a moment where Anthony Edwards was frustrated with SGA either flopping or putting on the dramatics to get a call his way, and he chucks the ball at him. And we've seen guys react to that not well, but SGA just kind of brushed it off, was like, all right, bro, I'm just going to keep playing basketball. And again, with the Oklahoma City Thunder, even when that game started, the Minnesota Timberwolves came out hot. Julius Randle, 18 points, was absolutely in his bag. And the Thunder as a team didn't get too high, didn't get too low. They just stayed even-keeled and continued playing basketball. And I think a lot of that starts at the head of the snake, and the head of the snake is SGA. So in that regard, I'm just very impressed by how this team is so young on paper and in age, but they play with a level of maturity that it's impressive and it's admirable, and I think it just speaks to why they're in the position that they are in at this point of the season.
Yeah, we talked about it in that 7-game series there with Denver, the ability to make adjustments, and they were down and had blown leads and all that stuff, and you talked about it. That is the sign of a mature team, which you wouldn't think for the average age is 24, which is crazy. So as mentioned, he's looking to be the first player to win MVP and a title in the same season since Steph Curry did it back in 2015. So if he is able to do that, because we love to talk hypotheticals and what that would mean for his legacy, what would it mean for SGA's legacy if he can do that and do something that hasn't been done since Steph Curry did it, what, a decade ago?
it's an incredible foundation to build on, right? And I say that because he's still so young and has so much career, God willing, in front of him. And, you know, I don't ever want to prematurely put a player as young as SGA in a conversation with Steph Curry or some of the other greats. But I will say to win an MVP and a championship in the same year puts you in a very selective club of the NBA community. And it's definitely not anything that you can just brush aside if you are a member of the media or just an NBA fan. It speaks to the greatness, and it speaks to ultimately the type of career that SGA can have. Because I know that we talk about a lot in the NBA, and specifically these past few weeks, about how we've had different champions the last 7 seasons, and a lot of that is because it's harder to keep teams together. I think that the Oklahoma City Thunder have a very good formula to keep their core together, and you have to wonder, with SGA at the helm and a player this talented and this mature despite his age, what that longevity looks like. But again, not going to put him in the Steph Curry conversation, but I will just say having that foundation, having that on your resume this early in your career, my hat would be off to him.
Yeah, anytime you're in your, early 20s and you're in the same conversation as Steph or any of the greats, it's certainly a great place to be. Now, we have talked about it. Hey, we were expecting it to be SGA, kind of a no-brainer, right? But, of course, there are still folks out there that are saying, how could he beat the Joker when he's having this, like, statistical, historic year for Nikola Jokic? But what would you say to the people that are still, even though we're here and SGA is reportedly winning this award, who are still backing the Joker and feeling like it should have been his award this season?
Look, Nikola Jokic is the best basketball player in the world, and this season, the fact that the Denver Nuggets are not in the Western Conference Finals does not take away from that. But going back to what I said earlier, and we had this conversation with Brad, sometimes the edge is not about the individual player, but how that individual player not only looks for themselves on paper, but what that translates to success when it comes to for the team. And the Thunder were head and shoulders of everybody in the NBA. And when you talk about the Western Conference, they clinched their playoff spot in April. We're talking about the Denver Nuggets, who finished 4th. This is no knock to Nikola Jokic. Again, he had his best statistical year. And some will say MVP should just be about the singular player, but it's how that player also affects the team in which that player plays for. And when you combine both of those things together, yes, there are places within the stat sheet that Jokic was drastically better than SGA. Like I said, he led in rebounds, assists, and steals. But when you look at the overall picture and what it meant for the success of the team, only one team was the top dog in the Western Conference. Only one team was the top dog in the NBA, and that was the Thunder. And a big part of that is because of SGA. So I believe that this year the MVP was voted correctly.
And you know what? We could go in circles all day talking about this, whether you think it's what team would be best without that player in the lineup or the best player on the best team.
And I promise you, Jokic is just fine.
Yeah, he is excited. He said he's got a lot of beer in his future.
He's about 3 cases of beer deep
and his horses. He wants to go scout horses and tend back to that. So I think he's doing all right. We appreciate it joining us here for this breaking news on HQ, where there are reports out there, according to ESPN, that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the NBA MVP. If you want to hear more from Ash, make sure you check out her NBA show on CBS Sports Network, Triple Threat. You can watch full episodes right now that are posted on YouTube. You can watch right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.